Hi, I'm Jason Gearn with Gearn Offshore. I'm going to introduce the level winder system to you. We've got a lot of components to get started with, so let's take a look. So beginning at the beginning, we have the power source, level winder power supply as it's labeled. So single phase 220 volt comes in. Currently this is running on 110 volt. It's a dual voltage supply, and this will provide power to the router, the computer, and the controller. Those are the three primary outputs of the power supply. Most everything else from there is powered from this source. So moving this direction, the router is a traditional commercial router, and it is the communication between the computer and the display, and is also the communication to the outside world, namely your vessel. So the computer logs the data, and the display is the display that will actually get mounted into your existing control unit. So 100% of the display is connected only to this computer, so that makes it pretty easy. The other component that's networked in is the controller, and this controller is essentially the PLC for the system. All right, let's look at the local and remote control portions for the system. The first is the display. So this display will be mounted in your existing control unit, and there's only two connections that are fed straight from the computer itself. And this will allow you to view the status of the level winder and the winch, and control the level winder itself when you're in local mode. Okay, so for remote mode, starting with the receiver, this is the component that is mounted outside the cabin. It just has a single large cable coming out from it, and the system's powered internally. There is a junction box, which then allows you to extend this connection as long as you need, and then of course the remote itself. And we'll go through some of these functions a little bit later. Okay, so let's look now at the rest of the system here. We have, again, starting with the power supply for the level winder itself that powers the controller. The controller, again, is acting like a PLC. The number one output from the controller goes to the interface box. And so this is where your sensors come in for the limits. This is where the Modbus connections between each of the VFDs are terminated, and this is also where the RS-232 connection is back to the RF receiver. Okay, here is an F7 VFD, which is the same model that you have on board, and there's one wire that's going to be added to your existing system. That is the Modbus connection. So let me just show you this in here. Always look to see if your status light is grayed out. So what you'll see in here is the Modbus connection will have both an R+, R-, S+, and S-. And these are actually two different Modbus connections, and these are jumpered together in this configuration. Okay, tucked over here we have our level winder VFD, and this will be mounted right next to your existing VFDs in the cabin itself. So what we have is the primary power coming in, and that will also come straight from the supplies your existing VFDs are connected into. We have the motor output, and we have an encoder output as well. And the only other connection we have is a Modbus connection, which goes back to the interface enclosure.